I'll keep you.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going live. We still have a few minutes to go. Let me press record, in fact.
Just one little thing before.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't call me an intimacy specialist.
Sure.
Everything else is fine.
Although you are. Okay, so hello everybody. Hello on the YouTube. Hello on the Zoom room. Let me let some people in here. Welcome. Do feel free to say where in the world you are. And those of you who are joining us on the live stream on YouTube, you won't be able to we won't be able to see you, but for those of you in the Zoom room, do have your cameras on. It'll be nice to see some faces. Be aware this is live streamed and recorded. So if you're with us in the Zoom room, it means you're part of our Embodiment Dojo and you've bought products or courses from us in the past. If you're in the live stream and you can interact with us, you can join the Zoom room if you buy the Empowered Relationships course or anything else we offer. I'll post those links in the comments. Welcome to Christina Dohr, who is an embodiment and intimacy coach. She's a somatic educator, and she'll be leading us today in a session entitled, Where Do I End and You Begin? More on that in a little bit. Do share this with anyone who would benefit for more fun, better boundaries, deepening intimacy in their relationship. There will be replays available, excuse me, over the weekend. So it's never too late to share. Well, next week is too late, so do let them know sooner. But do share it. There will be replays available up until the weekend. I'll paste the link in the comments. We want as many people to benefit from this live event as possible. We think relationships are important. We will give you as much as we can offer during this week. However, if you really want to make a change in your life, you will need time and practice. And this is where the 8-week Empowered Relationships course with Adam and Christina comes in. If you've ever felt unsatisfied, frustrated in your relationship, if you've ever felt that you're not getting what you want and need, lonely, even though you are in a relationship, or like you're the only one trying, then please know you're not alone. Creating a happy, healthy relationship isn't easy. Learning to set and respect boundaries, to communicate openly, to be playful, fun, to meet each other's needs. These are skills that no one teaches us. But what if you could be truly seen, heard, and fulfilled? Imagine a world where your partner understands what you want. Imagine communicating freely. Imagine having playful mornings, bigger-free evenings, feeling really connected to one another. It is possible. It all starts with you. The one thing that's consistent in all of your relationships is you. It starts within. Christina, would you like to play a little short video about what the course is about?
Absolutely. Let me just get the tech right.
And Christina is one of the 2 trainers on this course, so she knows it very well. I'm so happy you're here for the session today.
So yeah, just a little insight into what we're talking about when we say an 8-week course. I hope you can enjoy this little video.
Have you ever found it hard to say what you're really feeling?
Christina, you've muted yourself.
Setup or dynamic. This might be interesting to you if you want to improve your skills and your ability to relate with taking more self-responsibility and showing up in an empowered way.
When we start showing up authentically, being in touch with what we really want, and find the confidence to communicate it, it can transform the way we are with each other.
Relationships are at the core of everything we do. Everything in our lives is relational. Whether we're relating to a stranger, relating to our partners, it's all about relationships.
This is for you if you've ever struggled with saying what you really want or desire, communicating with your partner. This is for you if you want to learn to assert your boundaries in a clearer, more loving way.
It's about authentic, full expression and becoming confident in really dropping more into the essence of who you are instead of trying to be something or someone that another might like.
The learning takes place in your body as well as in your mind, and it's super accessible for everyone. On the course, we'll teach you practical embodied exercises for improving the way you communicate, for getting in touch with your authentic desires, and for bringing more creativity and aliveness into all your interactions.
We want to give you the tools to work with conflict, maybe reshape it so that it can be a tool for growth rather than detrimental to your relationships.
I've seen firsthand how these simple tools can transform people's relationships, from the social to the sexual. This training is simple and embodied. It's not about theory, it's about you and your sensations and your relationship to intimacy.
Whether you're in a relationship or not, who you're in relationship with, whatever your gender, your sexual orientation, if you want to have more fulfilling relationships, then this is for you.
So if you want to learn how to bring more playfulness into your connection, if you want to learn structures for exploring physical intimacy, if you want to learn how to bring beautiful boundaries to empower your relationship, join me and Christina Dohr on this 8-week journey. Learn to fully show up for yourself in every area of your life.
Thank you. That looks yummy. That looks really exciting. So this is the course for you if you want to learn how to get more connection, joy, and fulfillment from your partner. The early bird offer does expire next week, so you've got plenty of time to think about it and before the course starts. And if you can't get the course, there's loads of free content this week, so do stay tuned. And now Christina, for those of you who don't know her, if you do the course, you'll be getting to know her intimately. She guides people towards authentic expression. It's one of her superpowers. She helps people have empowered relationships. She's an Aikido black belt turned passionate dancer, and she does have a background in social sciences as well. I'll shut up now. We're here to hear you, Christina.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you here. And welcome everyone on the live stream. Welcome everyone who's in the room right now. If you're in the room with me and you are able to switch your camera on, I really encourage that. It doesn't matter if you're having your breakfast or your dinner or a cup of coffee or whatever, or if you want to walk around while listening to this. I'll be guiding through a few exercises that involve movement, and you're welcome to sit them out if you are in a space that doesn't allow that right now and just listen to it. But I very much encourage you to join along and try it out. So if you're in the room with me, switch on your camera, let me see you, be here with me. It's always nice also to see some faces that have popped up here regularly. Hi, Timmy. And otherwise, always from my side, the reminder that anything I suggest here is an invitation, and you don't have to do anything I propose here. And I mean that really seriously. So do your own thing, but I think you'll get the most out of it if you try. But look after yourself, look after your own sort of limitations and what feels right for you in this very moment. Then to begin with, I'm very curious, what brought you to this very session? So if you're here with me or in the stream watching this, comment in the chat and let me know what brought you to dial into this session here. And we'll probably spread all across the globe once again. So good morning, good evening to everyone. For me, it's like 9 in the morning. Jana says, I was awake and you're all amazing. Thank you so much. What brought you here? Why did you decide to? If you're watching the recording of this, take that moment as well to tune into yourself and ask yourself once again, why are you here? Why are you watching this? Why waste an hour to listen to something about relationships? Is it a wasted hour? How can you get the most out of this? Another reason, getting clear on how to be assertive with boundaries in a healthy way. Yeah. So today, the entire day, this is the last session of our second day. It was all about boundaries. And we've had a few lovely sessions on this already, like how to tell your partner to fuck off, or how to say a more kind no, or when you're being too nice, or the New York no. So there's so many different ways we've already kind of given you insights and tools and tricks and a bit of a deeper understanding of boundaries, I hope. And this session very much looks at boundaries in an existing relationship, and especially boundaries when they become blurry, or like where that line is. So why would that be an important thing to look at? That's the boundaries within an existing relationship with your partner, but it could also be with a family member. Yeah, Francine shares that being very close with her partner and working together, it's asking for what I want and communicating that. Yes, absolutely. Feel like I lose who I am in relationship. Yeah, exactly. Who else here? Reflect on your own history of relationships. And maybe you've only been in one in your entire life so far. That's fine. But maybe you've experienced several relationships. And have you had that experience of getting lost a little bit? And maybe after dating someone for a little while, suddenly being like, somehow I'm not doing this and that and that and that and that, what I used to do before I was in this relationship. Or you start questioning, like, I'm acting differently, I'm having different thoughts. Anyone else or had that experience? Yeah, to lose the sense of who you are or who you were while being in a relationship, and then maybe you come out of that relationship and suddenly it's like waking up from some sort of dream, hopefully not a nightmare, but also it could be I've definitely had that too. It could be a realization, a moment of like, oh wow, I was this one version of myself the entire time I spent with this partner, and now suddenly there are all these other sides of myself popping back up. Where were they? Why did I leave them out the door? Right? Yeah, anyone? I see some nodding. Resonate with that? Yeah, especially the longer a relationship lasts. And it's just to say this as well, it's completely normal. The more time we spend with any other person, it will rub off. It's like an osmotic process where, because we're in proximity, because we're spending so much time, we're influenced by the other person, and we are influencing the other person as well. And that's totally normal, and it's a beautiful thing as well, because in my understanding, what brings us together to begin with in any sort of relationship, partnership, the attraction bit is often a yearning or a desire to actually learn something from the other. There's something that's really intriguing, and it might be because they are different in that, because they have this particular quality, and there might be this sense of like, ooh, I feel drawn to that, maybe because I don't have that in myself. And it's almost like entering into an exchange, and that happens even if you don't do it intentionally, in terms of like, let's sit down, I want to learn this thing from you, especially maybe not in a romantic relationship, because we might not approach it like this transactional thing. But then over time, this happens naturally. And I believe that subconsciously, at least, it's one of the reasons or the determining factors of how we select a partner to start with as well. And funny enough, the other thing might be that the things that drew you to that partner initially might then also become the things that you hate the most and get so annoyed with in them. Did anybody else experience that? Yeah. And this could mean that you've simply exposed yourself for this time to the particular quality that was so intriguing and so interesting. It's almost like going to this restaurant and you have this delicious dish and it's really good for your body, and that's why you crave it and you eat it over and over and over and over again until you suddenly get so sick and tired of it. But maybe it's also because you've gotten all from it. You've maybe gotten all the things you wanted to learn, and maybe also found that you don't need to go all that way. So the longer we're in a relationship with one other person, the more we kind of assimilate. And yeah, the point made that this is a completely normal process that probably you might have observed in your friendships as well. I definitely remember, like, every time I had a very close friend, especially during childhood, I would adopt qualities of her. Like, the more we hang out together, I'd catch myself saying things in the same way as that person. I would catch myself thinking, like, and especially when I'd spend some time apart from them, I'd suddenly be like, oh, this is exactly like my best friend. Yeah. So it's a normal process. And it's also, from an evolutionary point of view, it's a really amazing trait to be able to do that, to be able to fit in, to be able to kind of adapt, to learn, to absorb, because we are existing in context and we are existing in relationship. And there's not really a way around that. But there's an overdoing. So while there's this entire process, and that might happen gradually and over time, that you really take on a lot of qualities from your partner, and it can be a beautiful thing. And you might leave that relationship afterwards feeling really grateful because you have grown as a person. You managed to integrate some of the good qualities that you saw in that partner. It can also take an unhealthy extent, or it could take the extent of forgetting who you are yourself throughout the process. You become a blank kind of sheet. You become this blank canvas, and you let yourself be influenced much more than you are influencing. Did anyone experience that? That you, like, those of you who said you lost yourself, and then after you left the relationship, suddenly it was like, oh my God, yeah, this is who I was, or this is who I am as well. Not that you weren't yourself in the relationship, but you might have become this small fraction of who you are. Yeah. Yeah, where did that person go? And for some period of time, this is also beautiful, especially when we meet somebody just fresh. It can be this like, yes, I just want to merge into you, and I want to, like, spend all my time with you, and I love you so much, and you're such an amazing person. All these things you do are so wonderful, and you're just like going into this, which is also for me that part of, like, I actually want to absorb or, like, melt with the other, which can be for a certain period of time really, really amazing. But then there comes this point of, like, but where am I? And maybe the image of like these circles is something I really love. It's like, or even like two balls. Like, if that's me and, like, I'm my own circle, and then I meet another person that's another circle, maybe there'll be a meeting and there's, like, some connection and there's some drawing towards each other, this magnetic sort of attraction. Maybe there's even a little bit of a bumping against each other at the start because we're, like, trying and rubbing our edges, and there might be a bit of conflict or friction, which also makes it interesting because our differences might be like, and then we enter this phase where we kind of merge a little bit, right? Where we connect, where we get together with somebody, and we start having all these shared experiences, and we start having all these shared emotions as well, and we start having shared friendship circles, and more these, not only my circle of my physical body, so to say, because it exists on all these different levels, but also my emotions and my entire life become somewhat, like, connected and overlapping. And that's a beautiful thing, as long as you also remain your own circle. The thing where it becomes tricky is when it becomes too much of an overlap and you almost disappear in each other. Well, this can be the beginning stage and also a lot of fun and like, yeah, forget about all of this. I'm exploring myself in this very new way, and any person I ever meet reflects myself differently. So seeing myself in a mirror of another person, so to say, and then seeing myself in that partner, yay, amazing. Maybe it shows me completely new sides of myself. But if I then reduce myself to that and only get lost there and start only doing the same things as my partner, feeling the same emotions, going to the same places, same activities, same friendship circles, or completely leave behind all the activities, all the friends, all the things I've done previously and join their life completely, that can happen. Sometimes we have differences in, like, ideally we both meet in a certain way and there's some intermingling and there's some rubbing off and some mixing and some exchange happening. But sometimes one of the people involved has a much stronger sense, like a much stronger core of like, these are the things I like doing and I keep to doing them. And maybe the other person has a bit more of a loose definition and is a bit more open to change and compromise and adapt, and might be like, yeah, I'm anyway, I admire what this other person does, so I want to join them in these activities because I feel really inspired and drawn to all of that. But do you still have your own? Do you still keep up your own hobbies? Do you still keep connected to your own friends that existed previous to that connection? Or that you may even make new friendships during that relationship period? Do you have separate lives still? Or are you all like in this symbiotic existence? And I know that for like now, a year and a half, it's been maybe really difficult if you're in a relationship to keep up that external side and to keep that part alive that exists independently of your partner. But in general, there may be three main areas that I want to talk about in that context as well, that I'll get to. But let me have a look at the comments first, because there are a few that came in as feedback. Yeah. Yeah, navigating the space between myself and another's values, needs, and limits. Yeah, exactly. Especially in conflict, with love, respect for self and the other, and intentionally. Yeah, we'll look a little bit at that. Yeah. And it happened to me plenty of times. So that idea of, because I feel so excited about another person and all the things they do and all the things they are and they share, and especially because I've traveled a lot and like lived in different places. So anyway, there wasn't so much of my friendship circle around at times. And if I would meet a person in a new place, then there's that additional component of entering into anything new and being a new person. But as soon as I define myself through that, then only, it can become tricky. And then there are a few symptoms or a few pointers that can show you whether you've actually started becoming a little too entangled in that. What do you think are symptoms of like a too close, too entangled, maybe where boundaries become a bit blurry, where that element, like the title of the session, where I end and you begin, becomes like a little unclear? How would that express? How have you maybe experienced that yourself? People pleasing. Yeah, absolutely. To basically direct your actions, your choices, everything, your words, maybe even the choice of words, how you speak to somebody in order for them to love you or accept you, like you, not reject you. Absolutely. Codependency, exactly. This is one of the terms that probably in the last decade have become very like big. And I hear a lot of people talking about that. And I think it's really, really important to bring awareness to that, that actually a lot of us have tendency to enter into codependent relationships and lose our own sovereignty, lose our own sense of self. And then it, even if it could be a really beautiful relationship, that can become something rather harmful. And if you lose the sense of self, agency, choice, or if you're enabling another person's behavior. I've definitely found myself, so there are two sides of this, right? There's like something where you give up your entirety of like, and you can't make any decision without the other anymore, and your emotions completely depend on the other and how the other receives you. But there might also be that element of not only losing yourself, but also not knowing anymore what your own emotions are. Did anybody have that experience maybe? I personally haven't found myself not knowing anymore what I personally felt, but I definitely was with partners who were a bit more sensitive to that, and having a distinction between what their genuine emotions were and what mine were became very confusing. And I find that a lot with people who are quite sensitive, empathetic, that there might be a need to actually retreat. So, yeah, going along with expectations. There can be a lot of guilt. That is also to do with the people-pleasing element, and like not having done it right, not having pleased the other person, or knowing that I should be doing these and these things to please the other person, but I haven't done them. And then I start feeling guilty. Yeah. Right. So generally, things to watch out for are if you stop feeling your genuine, authentic sort of emotions and desires, if you stop knowing what it is you want and always go, oh yeah, honey, but what do you want? Oh, we'll go to the restaurant that you like. Oh, no. Like every time, you can even maybe observe that in friends of you. Some people might have that tendency to be a bit more giving themselves up. So they'd be at the dinner table and be like, looking through the menu and then just going, honey, what are you going to order? What should I order? And they give up some of that agency. And it can be very nice sometimes to be like, you choose for me. I don't want to choose today. But is it a general pattern that exists throughout? That you're just orienting yourselves according to your partner and never saying what you want? And can you still feel yourself? Feel what you want? Feel the emotions that are present? Or are they just your partners and the projections of what you think they want? And the other thing is if there's a lot of drama in the relationship. So if there's a non-stop sort of fighty element, I generally say that conflict and fights can be amazing and can deepen intimacy and connection if you approach them in the right way and with the right attitude and turn them around and learn from them. But if there's a non-stop need to process everything, to discuss everything, to like non-stop having to share and untangle and maybe even look for fault or blame, and there's this non-stop escalation of things that to the actual situation, if you maybe look back at it a few days later, looks a bit like out of proportion. But if that keeps happening and in the moments it feels really terrible and there's so much triggered nonstop and you keep kind of pushing each other's buttons and not giving each other a break, it's probably a sign that there's some sort of too strong overlap and merging in these circles, so to say. Yeah. And then the idea would be to reestablish, like, where's my line? To come apart a little bit. And this can happen in different ways. So yeah, spending time apart is probably really, really, really important. And a lot of us mistake that as, but if I'm not with my partner, maybe we're over. Or if I just retreat a little bit, maybe I'm going to be left. And there might be so many complex thoughts of like, if I just spend a few days without them, maybe we're not okay. and like I need to spend every second with my partner because otherwise we're not okay. But then to really challenge that and actually reverse the view of like not spending time together is actually for nourishing the relationship is really, really important. And there are probably 2 or 3 factors with regards to taking some distance that are like space, time, and then also with regards to physical touch or physicality. So in order to maybe remove a little bit of that entanglement or that sort of being too close in that regard, if it feels like you're losing yourself in that, nobody owes anyone anything with regards to time. So there can be a sense of like, but I ought to be spending time with my partner. And I also expect them to want to spend time with me. And like in my schedule, I might expect them to free up time whenever I'm free as well. But to reverse that and actually book in time just with yourself, or maybe also just apart consciously more often, can help by getting a better sense of yourself again. Same with space, going to different places, really being apart, out of each other's zone even. Not just doing your own thing and like maybe spending your time individually, but also really being apart physically. There are studies with regards to our biochemistry that we really, really align with partners we spend a lot of time with, not just in our habits, not just in the way we speak, but also in our entire biochemistry. So the more time we spend really close together, the more we adjust and align, and then it becomes really difficult to tell everything apart. And you lose polarity. And that once again can also cause a lot more drama, because then there's this like conflict of wanting intimacy, wanting maybe the spark and wanting the polarity in a relationship. But because you're just so close, it doesn't really happen. And that can lead to a lot of frustration. Did anybody else experience that? And it really depends. It really depends on you, and it really depends on the amount of time, space you need apart, and you need for yourself, and you need with other people. And there's a lot of differences and a lot of negotiation that sometimes needs to happen, because I tend to be in a relationship with people who probably want a lot more alone time than I necessarily need. But it's not the full truth, for instance, because for me, I often underestimate as well how much time I need apart or by myself. And then it's rediscovering that maybe this is a really good thing for me as well. So it's actually really useful that my partners usually go earlier, like, oh, I might need some me time. And I'm like, oh yeah, actually, maybe I do too. And I'm more flexible with it, but actually it's really nourishing and resetting. And then the other thing that you can do, time, space are the 2 components. And then the third with regards to touch is not to take it for granted to nonstop be touching, not to take it for granted and that it's always permitted, not to take for granted. I see there's something really beautiful that happens in long-term relationships. At some point you start becoming like monkeys, you know, and you start grooming each other maybe, or you start like doing things to each other's bodies that then there's permission there, and it can be a beautiful intimate connection in that as well. But it might sometimes lead to the blurring of boundaries as well, that I almost start treating my partner's body as if it was my own. And I would start doing stuff like, you know, a mother would like spit in a tissue and rub something off someone's cheek, or you know, and you start doing that to your partner. You start doing that to the person you're with and romantically involved with. They become an extension of your own body. And for me, that's one sign where maybe it's time to step back a little bit and see the other person as a separate being again, and rewind a little bit to that part of, when did we just meet? I would have never just reached out and done that. And that creates a bit of like more mystery as well, and a bit more of this, you are a separate person and we're not completely merged with each other. And actually there's a respect and a stepping back and asking for consent, and not an assuming, which brings us back to expectations. What I expect from my partner, what I'm allowed to do, or even to the extent of thinking you own them or they own you. All right, so my suggestion is, before I talk more, to do a little, it's kind of a Qigong exercise that I find very helpful to get an understanding of your own boundaries and your own periphery, so to say. So if you want to do this with me, you can stand up. It doesn't require super much space. I'll just move this back a little bit. And find a way to stand comfortably, maybe just a bit more than hip width apart. Let's see if I can move this back a little bit more. Tech setups with this. All right, find a way to have your legs kind of hip width or a bit wider, and the soles of your feet planted solidly into the ground. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel gravity. So really allow your bones, your muscles, everything to be drawn down, falling down towards the earth, to the ground. And if you want, close your eyes. And then remind yourself for a moment that this is where you stand right now. Solidly on your own 2 feet, on the ground. You're holding yourself up. See if you can do this with least effort possible. So this is like how it can feel like standing on your own. Which doesn't need to mean you're alone, but you're standing solidly on your own 2 feet. Relax your stomach, relax your chest, relax your jaw. And let the breath flow freely. So this could be one way to return to yourself and your own sense of stability. Here I am. You could do this sitting down as well and like focus on really dropping the weight through your bum into the ground or into the chair, but I like to do this standing right now. Also because I want to transition into a little bit of shaking. So let's start with one hand and shake out your hand. So if there's something you want to clear, we can work with an image, like anything that you are taking on from someone, and it may be your partner, that you don't need there right now. You're going to shake that off. You can bring in the other hand. As if it was, imagine it was like a little crusty layer of them. And you're shaking that loose right now. Bringing in the shoulders and the arms as well. And the torso. And then letting the shaking travel down your body into your hips. And shaking loose all the things that aren't part of you right now. Include your legs, your feet, your bum, and become a bit creative, following where you feel you want to shake something loose. If there are sounds that you want to make, and it's appropriate where you are to do them, include the breath, include the sounds. And take 1 full minute to really shake it off. Decide for yourself how strong you want to shake, how big the movements are going to be, if they're small. I like shaking my face and my head. Really use your breath. And then for another minute, maybe include like a sweeping off, as if you're like swiping off that loose layer that you've shaken loose.
of your body, almost like you're wiping off water or dusting. Down all the way to your feet. Your head, as if you're giving yourself a little shower with your own hands. Great. And then finding back to stillness. You can close your eyes if you want. And drop back down into your feet. Become aware of the sensations in your body, your breath, maybe the temperature of your body. I'm noticing some tingling, feeling a bit more alive and awake, a bit more here. And then let's take a bit of a wider stance again, so you really have a solid base with your feet. I'm almost double hip width. And then we'll do a bit of breathing by taking the arms out around, and I'm going to do it with you, and back through the center line. And while you do that, imagine that you're drawing with your fingertips, you're drawing a circle around you. And this is where your edges are. So if you want to close your eyes to really focus in, we'll do like 3 to 5 breaths in this direction. Starting with your hands at the bottom, in front of your pelvis, and then bringing them out with the in-breath. Really imagining you're drawing a line, a circle, and bringing it back in front of you with the exhale. Once again, reaching and feeling, imagining you have a bubble around you and that you're touching that from the inside. And if you work well with the imagination, maybe your bubble has a particular color as well. You can access. Let's do this twice more. When you reach back in front of your lower belly, let's reverse the direction and go up in the center. And trace that circle the other way around. So the inhale goes up in front of you. One last time. Drawing a central line along your spine and up above your head and all the way around. And then as a last one, bring your arms up beside your chest and push forward with the exhale. And then opening them up like wings, breathing in, opening your chest, and coming back to push. And give it a bit of a sense of you're really pushing. So almost like a resistance, imagining you're pushing against water or through a heavy liquid. We're going to do 2 more of this. And here you can imagine as well that when you're pushing, you're actually pushing into your bubble and filling it with some amazing light or some wonderful smell or something. You're filling your entire bubble with that. All the way to the edge. Okay. Drop that, shake it up for a moment. And then let's do 1 minute, if you want to, just free flow. Imagine you have this bubble all the way around you. And we haven't quite covered it to the bottom or above a little bit, but not behind us. So see if you can imagine that you touch all around this bubble with your hands and you're painting it from the inside.
And feel your own space. In dance, we often call this the kinesphere. It's not just our skin. So exploring that. Sometimes we think the edge of where we end is very much the skin. And you can test that as well if you want by giving yourself a bit of pressure on your actual physical layer, grounding it back into sort of the physical body. Like, this is where I end, right? The layer here. This is my leg. And outside of that, there's like air, right? And this can be great to become aware of by tapping or massaging. Sometimes to understand your physical edge. And then we can expand this out to our little bubble. And I found this, although there's nothing like concrete or that we can see, it can enhance the sense of me and where my space is. And I've practiced some of these exercises of Qigong, like regularly, for a little while. And I saw that it enhanced the sense of me and my boundaries, even without me intending to create stronger boundaries, just the sense of, okay, this is me, this is my space, this is how far I can reach into all directions. I could access that sense of me much more clearly. Okay. And then come back to your screen. And I'm curious to hear how that was for you. If there were any insights, how did that feel? Maybe it was difficult. So while there's a lot of things we can obviously talk about and do in theory and understand with our mind, it's sometimes really beautiful to bring the body in and work with imagery and work with visualizations and work with movement and that sense of, yeah, this is sort of my space. And maybe you've experienced this sometimes, and there are exercises you can do as well where you walk towards another person with your eyes closed. And then you get to stop when you think that you're entering their field. So, and it's astonishing how our sense, our proprioception, helps us to understand before we run into a wall, even if our eyes are closed. The more we bring awareness into that sense, the more we can actually sense our limitations and our edges and our boundaries, even beyond that, like strongly physical. There's a lot of cracking and popping in my body. Yeah, waking up the body is also in and of itself a beautiful way to reconnect to self, to feel myself and not the other person. Feeling happy really helped me concrete sense, yeah, of my space. Yeah. Yeah, the concrete pressure on the body, that's a much more maybe, accessible one because it's much more clear. But I sometimes like to expand that out with my imagination. Yeah. Feel more comfortable taking up my space. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's really like as if you're familiarizing yourself beyond the physical skin layer of where you end. And this helps especially in relationship, because then I start noticing much more about what I perceive in my own body, what I perceive also in my immediate surrounding. And then I can tell that apart as soon as somebody enters that. As soon as somebody comes close, I'm much more able to tell, oh, there's an influence that isn't me. So, and it all comes back down to regular practice. The more often you do something, the more often you familiarize yourself with something, the more sensitized that sense becomes. It's like exercising a muscle as well. And I could tell you all sorts of weird stories of like practicing this within a martial arts context and actually working with the eyes closed, and one person was slowly kind of pretending to attack, like with strikes, very slowly. And with the eyes closed, the idea was that I would evade the strike. And it was incredible how accurately that was possible, with the eyes closed, to know which direction to go to. Yeah. Yeah, shaking yourself free, moving the body. And then obviously on a mental, more like cognitive understanding level, I think it comes back down to maybe 3 golden rules that are, as much as you can, drop expectations. And that will help disentangle something. The more we place, even just, often it's not conscious, the more we make an effort to not expect anything from a person, which doesn't mean, oh, I don't expect anything of you anyway anymore. That's a very different way of doing it. But like, I genuinely don't expect anything. So everything I receive is a gift. That can help like disentangle a little bit. Then bringing back consent into kind of the touch element, even within a relationship, to honor like the sovereign existence of each person. And then also learning to really ask for what you want and express what you don't want. So saying no clearly and really understanding what you want. And that's again a practice, but that will help, like putting the focus and intention on like the continuous checking in on what is it that I actually want, and then expressing that, and what is it that I don't want. This is where we can create firmer boundaries. And when I say boundaries, it also doesn't mean a wall then, because sometimes we overcompensate maybe, or we create these like blocks and walls, and that's what we're like, oh, but I'm putting a boundary. But that's not really what I mean either. It's more about having almost like a membrane as well. And it's possibly permeable and it's flexible and it can change. But the healthier that membrane, almost like a cell membrane, the better our boundaries are, and the better we can also choose what to let in and what not to let in. And it becomes more of an active choice rather than just stonewalling people out, or completely merging because we're completely porous in all ways. Yeah. Okay. There's one more favorite thing, but I think we're reaching the end. Do we have 1 more minute? I'll just like one of my favorite things.
I will actually come back to you for your favorite thing at the end. Christina, I just wanted to remind everybody, those of you in the Zoom room here and those of you on YouTube especially, replays for this session and all sessions of the week, they will be available over this weekend. And if you have registered for the week, then you will also be emailed those replays. And you still have time, we still have a bunch of wonderful sessions to go. If you like this, if you took something out of it, think of one person, a family member, a friend who can benefit. And after this call, contact them, message them, say, hey, come along to this, because they will think of somebody who will thank you, okay? Think of somebody that will really take something out of this and invite them over. I'll share the link again of where you can register. And I want to remind everybody that the early bird offer for the Empowered Relationships course will be running until after the replays this weekend. So if you're thinking of joining the course, you have plenty of time to think about it and decide if you want to really bring home the learnings in your life. Let me take this opportunity to show you what the course is like. So I'll just share my screen here so you can take a sneak peek inside. So this is what the course looks like. You have your own dashboard, and let me minimize it so you can see better. So you go at your own pace, and every week there is a different aspect. So like week 1, you have all these things, becoming aware of your body, waking up your hands, practice, exploring self-care. You kind of really dive into very detailed, juicy stuff. Then you explore patterns, you explore why being with yourself can be hard. Week 3, you still get a whole load of boundaries, exploration. So you get the chance to really dive in and kind of see all these things that Christina just touched on. You really get a sense of how they feel. And also you do have an alive community. There are live calls with Christina and Adam, right, Christina? And you get support from your peers. You can talk with them, you can exchange questions, you can share your experience. Also, there is the rest of the week coming up, so I'll just share what we have coming up for the rest of the week. Well, sorry, there we go. So we have a few full days still. This is what it's looking like. The next will be on your cycle and intimacy in a few hours from now.
I can only see your folder. I don't know if that's the case for others too.
Sorry?
Yeah, I can only see a folder, not the actual schedule.
That's not good. Sorry about that. There we go. That's the actual schedule. There is the actual schedule there. My computer is not having a good relationship with Zoom right now. But there you go. Some of the titles that are coming up, just to give you a little incentive to join us back. So I'll drop the link for the course and the rest of the week if you want to register. Like I said, the next one will be on your cycle and intimacy. So one definitely for the ladies, and men, if you want to understand the women better, do join in. Because I'm sure a lot of people go, oh no, she's got her cycle, let's stay away. And Christina, would you like to repeat, actually, because I've blabbed on too much, repeat your top 3 tips for everybody to take away? I'll invite you also to write down your takeaways so that Christina can see what you like, and also so that you can remind yourself to go back to something after this session is over and implement it in your life.
Yeah, share with me in the comments. What did you learn, if anything? Top tip. There's one thing that I really want to emphasize, which is take responsibility. It's almost like radical self-responsibility, because no one will do it for you and you shouldn't do it for anyone else. But if we place enough kindness and care into our relating and take like full responsibility, then I think all shall be fine. And that's to do with really understanding that difference of like, what is mine? And that's the pose I was gonna do with you as well, which is the care pose. It's just reaching your arms almost like around a tree trunk as to what's inside my field of responsibility. There's like the area inside, and what's not, turning the palms outward to establish a sort of that boundary, which is similar to the bubble idea. And to work with that, it's like know what you want, know what you don't want, and express that, and take the time you need apart and away from your partner if you feel that you're getting too mixed up with them, whether that's emotionally or any other way, where you feel like you're losing the sense of who you are. Yeah. And really do that consciously before it's too late. Because oftentimes what happens at some point, there's a strong reaction or there's another fight, which is often also about negotiating. That's sort of the intimacy, but yet also the sovereign existence of 2 individuals. So having 2 individuals be together in a relationship, almost like the third entity, and to take care of all of these, but not to sacrifice yourself just for the sake of something has to work. Which doesn't mean you shouldn't work on relationships, you should, but it's a choice. So to get away from a victim mentality of like, oh, and I'm always this, and my partner always does that to me. You choose to be in the relationship, choose to be in it 100%, and become clear on what's yours and become clear on what's theirs. Yeah. That was more than 3 top tips. Take space, practice embodied sense of self, and take full responsibility. That's the 3 top tips. And yeah, if you want to learn more, because even like now, there's so many more things I would love to share with you, but an hour is just not enough. So feel free to reach out, feel free to watch the other sessions coming up. There's more. Actually, next session is also with me. It's about conflict and how to transform that into positive growth potential rather than destructive. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Virginia. Thank you, everyone. If you still want to share your top tips, I'm reading some here. Invisible bubble, yeah, invisible bubble. That's a hard word. Yeah, tuning to your own needs. Yeah. All right, well, have a lovely start into your day, or maybe it's the end of your day. So sleep well, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, and I did make a mistake. So the next session we'll be seeing you again in, what is it, 3 hours from now? So stay tuned if you can in your
5 hours.
5 hours. 5 hours. I can't count. And then it's about conflict, and then it's the cycle. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody on YouTube, on the Zoom. Thank you for joining us from all over. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.